Good morning, everyone, from Canberra, Australia. I am here again. I come every year and I love it. I love it here. I'm a little sleepy. I just woke up. I'm slowly settling into Australian time, and I've got to get my early mornings going again. But here I am, same usual time, different day. I don't know if anyone will join me, but I know there's a bunch of you that will watch this after the fact. So, Mike, thank you for the suggestion to talk about attention replaces pressure. This is something that I have been thinking about a lot, and I've been teaching in a lot of my clinics. And it's a really interesting thought because a lot of us who have horses would prefer to use less pressure. And less pressure is a great idea until you really need the horse to do something, whether it is move to a different pasture or have their feet trimmed or go on an adventure with you or learn a new skill. So these are all things that we are raised to believe you need pressure for. And you can use pressure to teach things. You can use pressure to cause a horse to do things that it wouldn't choose. And that is going to be part of the equation. But to some extent, you can replace pressure with attention. And this is something I've learned through experience, and I'm just figuring out how to explain it. Basically, I believe that horses are herd creatures. They want to cooperate. They want to work with you. And this is something that we can take advantage of. Sounds terrible, but we are taking advantage of it. The fact is, we're herd animals too, so humans also want to cooperate. But it takes a very specific set of situations, specific set of circumstances for everyone to want to cooperate. And basically what that is I believe everyone wants to be understood as an individual before they are part of a group. So if you can pay attention to who the horse is as an individual, or the person, you can take that understanding of them as an individual and show them through your actions. You know what they like. You know what they dislike. You know what their emotional cycles tend to run like. So every horse is going to run through cycles where sometimes they're a little concerned and they get very independent. Sometimes they're very curious and they're very cooperative. Sometimes they're very comfortable and they don't use their senses, but they just relax into remembering what's happened. So if you understand your particular horse's cycles of emotions, then they start to get more and more and more cooperative. So how do you show them that you understand their cycles of emotions? It's actually really simple. It's not easy, but it is really simple. And the way that it's really simple is when they're concerned, you'll know they're concerned because they have pushing or pulling behaviors. Pushing and pulling behaviors are going to be your low intensity fight and flight. So when they push into you, it's a low intensity fight. When they pull away from you, it's a low intensity flight. If you can anticipate that, if you can pull away from the horse before they pull away from you, if you can push into them, and it doesn't have to be mean, but it can be petting, it can be rubbing, it can be any sort of pushing in behavior before they push into you, what that does is it shows them that you understand what they were going to do next. And what I found is the more precision you have when you show them that you understand who they are as an individual, the more harmony they'll offer you back. So this takes hours and hours and hours, of course. This is a very slow connection building process. But to the degree you can show the horse you understand them, they will offer back to you their cooperation in the things you suggest for them. And that sounds very oversimplified, but it's just something I found in experience to be true. Now, we can also think of this in just a really simple nuts and bolts basic way. And that is, anybody who's ever herded cattle around, or sheep, or any animals where you need to get them from one place to another. If you are standing in the right place at the right time, you don't have to wave your arms or yell or get upset. You just have to stand in the right place, and they will tend to flow in the right direction. So this is a very basic way of example of showing you that attention replaces pressure. So if you're paying attention and you know exactly where to stand, then you will find everything goes the way you want it to go. If you're not paying attention, you're in slightly the wrong place. And then you find that you're going to have to wave your arms, jump up and down, yell to get them to go the direction that you want. And so the more time you spend herding animals from one place to another, the more you're going to learn that feel and that timing of where to stand and where not to stand. And that's just a really basic example of attention replaces pressure. If you're paying attention and you're in the right place at the right time, you don't have to add any pressure to your existence. You just have to be in that place at that time, and everyone's going to move around you in a way that makes sense to them. If you are slightly in the wrong place at the wrong time, you're going to have to add pressure to get the result you want. So this is no different with horses. When we train horses, it's going to be the same thing. So I'll give you another example. When I was doing a lot of riding, one of the things we would study is how do you cue a transition in gait from trot to canter or canter to walk. And part of knowing when to cue the transition is knowing where the feet are underneath you. So if you give a cue to a foot that is got all the weight on it, they can't move that foot. They can only move that foot if the weight is actually off of the foot. So learning how to cue when the weight is off of the foot will mean that you get an instant response, assuming all of the other factors are there, of course. So we can use this awareness of attention to detail replaces pressure. So what you find when you're learning how to cue at the right time is if you cue at the wrong time, you're going to be kicking and pushing and using a spur and putting more and more pressure on. But if you cue at the right time, all it takes is the littlest touch and you get a response. So paying attention replaces pressure. Now, is the placement of your body still a kind of pressure? Sure. So putting your heel in somewhere to cue a horse to go to the next gate, that is a kind of pressure. But you've replaced the intensity of pressure with understanding about the horse that you're sitting on. So this can be taken into every aspect of your life with horses. So how do we help horses become more cooperative? The first thing we do is we show them that we understand them. We show them we know who they are. We know what they like. We know what they don't like. We know what their cycles of emotions are. We know when their stress is going to go up and when their stress is going to go down. And if we can show them that we understand that, you will find more and more and more when you want to ask them for something. It's going to have more to do with the placement and the positioning of your being, your body, and less to do with the pressure that you put on their body. Now, I do think it's a spectrum. You probably won't ever be able to have zero pressure because pressure is part of being alive. But you can lower the pressure significantly to make sure that they feel as welcome and comfortable with you as possible. You can only do that if you understand and pay attention to who they are as an individual and how they're different from their friends, how they're different from you, how they're different from the others in the area. So that's the thought I'm going to leave you guys with today. I'm going to keep this pretty short and sweet. It's a simple concept, But because it really has to be adjusted to every horse you interact with, every horse you interact with is going to be a little different from the horse you interacted with yesterday, even if it's the same horse, because we grow and we learn and we change and we develop. So you really have to meet the horse you have that day. Who are you today? How do you feel today? What do your cycles of stress look like today? If I can show you that I understand that, then I can use the placement and the positioning of my body to communicate instead of the pressure of my body to communicate. So I'm going to leave you with that thought. I've got some horses to go play with, and I'm going to go continue my education, learning about each one of them so that I can replace pressure with attention. I hope you guys have a good day. Thanks for sharing tea with me.